Good morning, guys. I just wanted to talk a little bit this morning about cold hands. I don't know how many of you like to go hiking in the shoulder season or even during the winter, but I've done quite a bit of cold weather hiking, whether by choice or by chance. And so I wanted to share some of the tips that I have for keeping your hands warm while you're hiking, skiing, just camping in general. When you get to the 50-degree mark, a lot of times, especially if it's windy or if it's kind of rainy or misty, you might want something on your hands. There's definitely people that don't want anything on their hands until it gets much colder than that. But I find that a lot of times while I'm hiking, especially if I'm using trekking poles, my hands tend to get cold and they kind of get hard and stiff. So a lot of times I will bring gloves, and I will oftentimes wear gloves when other people aren't even really necessarily thinking about it. But for me, it's definitely a comfort issue, and it definitely makes hiking more enjoyable if my hands aren't freezing the whole time. And I know I'm kind of taking care of that issue before it really becomes a problem where I can't zip up on my coat or, undo a button or a buckle on my pack or something like that. So let's jump into it. I really like to layer what I put on my hands, or have the option to layer as things get colder or as things get wetter. And when I look at gloves, I want a glove, a really lightweight base layer glove, and I don't want it to be cotton. Cotton tends to just soak up that water and it keeps it right next to your skin, which doesn't allow it to dry out and it makes it cold. They also tend to take a long time to dry. So I look for like really lightweight fleece gloves. A lot of times there's like athletic running type gloves. You can get pretty expensive in this category, or you can still keep it pretty cheap. I'm showing you a couple of pretty cheap options here. This pair came with a pair of ski gloves as a layer, and this is a $5 pair of wool liners from an Army surplus store. So you don't have to have really expensive layers. I like to keep them pretty cheap because they tend to wear out. I have a little bit more expensive pair of smart wool gloves that I run in, but I really don't do anything else in. But I know that while hiking and camping, backpacking, I tend to have gloves on, especially if it gets colder, and they tend to wear out a lot quicker. So I like to keep them fairly cheap. So yeah, I like to start off with a base layer, something like this. And these literally came with ski gloves, so they're nothing that I went out and bought, but they're a really lightweight fleece layer. You can get fancy and get the smart tips or whatever, so you can use your phone. I think these are supposed to have it, but they don't actually work that well. So I use this, if it's 50, like 40, 30 even, if it's just kind of windy outside. But if it starts to get rainy or cold, I'm really likely to just stick on a layer like this. And this is just a rain mitt or a Gore-Tex mitt. You can use it for more than just rain, but it's really nice to just slide this on over your glove, tuck that up under your rain shell of your sleeve, so the rain just runs down your rain shell sleeve and off if it's wet outside or if it's snowing outside. And you can adjust this right here with Velcro if you want. So great. And this mitt actually cuts a lot of the wind and holds in a lot of heat. So just having that light shell and this mitt on top can oftentimes be just fine down into the 30s and even the 20s, kind of depending on the conditions. Definitely, like if I'm in the mountains in the summer even, I will take a system like this to have, because a lot of times those summer afternoon rain showers can be extended. They can be 1 or 2 hours long, and it gets pretty cold. It can get down into the 40s. You can have hail, and hiking through that really makes my hands cold. So I use trekking poles, and I really like to have something to put over my hands. I can stick these on, keep my hands warm, and I'm not worried, if I get into a really cold situation. And I have been in situations where I have been nearly hypothermic before, and I've been really glad to have things like this in my pack. So another option, if you get your first base layer wet for some reason, either from sweat, from being inside of your Gore-Tex mitt, or if it gets rained on, it's really nice if you know you're going to be going into cold, wet weather, or if you know you're going to be doing a highly aerobic activity like cross-country skiing or backcountry skiing for a day or for a weekend. I would definitely take 2, and possibly, if you're going for a weekend, even 3 pairs of base layer mitts, because you really have a hard time drying things out in cold weather when you're outside for an extended period of time. So, and it's really nice to have base layer mitts that are dry, even if it's just once a day. So that's definitely an option, to take a backup pair of base layer mitts, which I often do if I'm backcountry skiing or Nordic skiing for a day. I'll wear one in the morning and then I'll switch to the others for the afternoon, because your hands are going to get sweaty and hot, and your mittens and your gloves will get wet as well. If it's really cold, so if it's like 20 degrees or starting to get into the teens, and again, depending on what I'm doing, but if I'm cross-country skiing or even hiking, I may want a really light pair of insulated mitts. Now, this is a really cheap pair that I found in Target, of all places. It was on their after season clearance sale, so I got them for like $6 or $7. I really like them because they're super light, and they have this so I can use my fingers. I really like that because I find that I will just take the mitts off, use my fingers, and then I can just tuck my fingers back in really quickly. And then a lot of times, if it's that cold outside, I usually have this layer on as well. So when you're looking for a layering system for mittens, you want to make sure that they are not too tight. It's actually really great if you can try them all on. If you plan on looking for them, take your base layer mitts or your mid layer mitts to the store with you, so that if you try on your outer mitt, you know it's not going to be too tight. It's really frustrating when your mittens get too tight, because that tends to cut off blood flow. Even if it cuts it off a little bit, it makes a difference. It's a really easy thing to do, and your hands will get colder. In gloves and in clothing, anything that restricts will cut off the blood flow and make you colder. So in the wintertime, you don't want tight clothing, and you really want to have nice, loose, flowy clothing that can allow the blood circulation. So that's definitely an option. Another great thing about these mitts is they have this little pocket right here. So if I wanted, I can just tuck a hand warmer right up in there, which is really great. So I really like that option too. You can definitely tuck a hand warmer in here, and then when you slide your hand in, that works too. Or you can just tuck the hand warmers in to your mitt and put your glove on. So that also works. You just have to make sure it kind of slides down to where your fingers are. And when we talk about hand warmers, there's actually a couple of kinds. Sometimes when I'm backcountry skiing during the day, I'll just go ahead and start up a couple of these if I know it's going to be really cold. And when you're skiing up in high elevations, 10, 11, 12,000 feet, it oftentimes is cold, especially in deep winter. So start these up, 30, 40 minutes ahead of time. Give them some time to really heat up. They last for a long time. Another option, and actually my favorite option, are these Zippo hand warmers. They actually run off of a fuel, and so you fill them up with a fuel, put this on. It takes a while to light them, so go ahead and start it ahead of time again, and then put the little cap on and slip them into the bag. And these are going to last, depending on how much fuel you put into them, anywhere from 4 to 6, maybe 8 hours. and they're pretty warm, so you can put them against your body. They're a little bit big sometimes for gloves, but you can put them in your pocket and you can put your hand in there. You can definitely put them in your glove if you need to. I like these because they're reusable, so I don't have to constantly find these in a store. That's why these are probably my favorite ones. These also tend to stay warmer, I think. That's just kind of my opinion. I tend to be able to feel the heat from these more than from this kind of hand warmer. This is a little more fussy of a hand warmer than this though, so a lot of people just use these. In my experience, the Hot Hands brand is much better than the Grabbers brand of hand warmer. So if you're looking for this kind of hand warmer, definitely see if you can find the Hot Hands versus the Grabbers. A couple other types of gloves I wanted to show you. This is a little bit heavier duty of a glove liner. It's got bigger neck on it. The material is just heavier. I've used these a lot. These work great to go over a heavy duty mitt. So if you're out when it's really cold, like downhill skiing, midwinter, that kind of thing, and you're not going to be doing like highly aerobic activity where you just know it's going to be really cold, you can put these on, slip these over the top, and this mitt over the top of a gloved like ski glove is amazing for keeping your hands warm. This is my go-to when I know it's going to be single digits and below. Definitely keeps your hands warm in all conditions. Of course, you can do this over a mitt as well. If you have a mitt, you can also put a liner glove on and just pull your liner glove out if you ever need to do anything with your hands so that they're not exposed to that kind of a brutal cold weather. So these are definitely a good option, but they're a little bit heavy for really what we need here. So you can take a much lighter system and just have these three here than if you were to have these here too. And these are much bulkier, much heavier, and much limited temperature range. I did want to show you one last pair of gloves that I found that I do really like. Again, they need to be for fairly cold weather, 20s and teens, but they are a ski glove or that type of glove. They are insulated glove like this, but a lot of times for the winter, when I'm backcountry skiing or something and I know it's going to be snowing, these are really nice because they have a waterproof shell that you can just pull over. And when you're outside and it's snowing and you're skiing, that's a really nice feature. If you just, as a second backup or as your primary glove, if you want to wear this during the beginning of the day and then they kind of wet out, then you can go to your next system. Here, it just gives you another option, and they're kind of an all-in-one deal. They're a little bit warm for like 40s and 50s, so you definitely want to wear them in a little bit colder weather, but they're a nice backup or second glove after you've wet out your first few layers. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below, and I will definitely be happy to try and answer those for you. Hope you'll have a great day, and we will see you later.